Thank you, friends, Shabbat Shalom, and greetings to you all. Now, we have noted this is the time of the year when change takes place. And one of the great changes this year, that's brought so far, is the almost agreement of a ceasefire and hostage release. Now, a trade of 1,000 terrorists for 100 hostages, many dead, and no names being provided, and we are focusing on names this week. While we welcome this move and yearn to see the freedom of the innocent, it does nothing to stem the tide against this happening again, nor does it seem like a particularly good deal. 6 weeks to release about 90 hostages for hundreds and hundreds of terrorists? How many more will the free terrorists now kill? And even before the ceasefire occurs, it was in danger and is yet to be fully ratified. It's been 15 months. The names of every hostage should have been spoken every day as a reminder and a call to the world to do something. Speaking of danger, the poor people of California continue to suffer as fires continue and no solutions seem to be on the horizon. This is not a third world country. This is the Garden of Eden of America. Although to many it's the Sodom and Gomorrah of America. Now, I know nothing about fire management, but I do know water is the primary tool to put out fires. So what I do not understand is how can a land with an ocean for a backyard not have water to put out fire? I mean, does it make a difference if it's salt or fresh water? I don't know. But I hope those who have lost all, and I don't mean this in a flippant way, remember those are just things. They have their lives. They will rebuild. The Jewish nation has lost all, more times than anyone. And they always rebuild. We do rebuild. We have a resilience, my friends. It's also the time of the year when larger change is written on the horizon. It's when the World Economic Forum meets in Davos, Switzerland, this year from January 20th to the 24th. When more private aircraft emitting more carbon poison than 100 years of a world of others fly in and out and this year's theme is collaboration for the intelligent age. Well, that abuse of the environment does not seem so intelligent. I don't know. The whole theme does not seem too intelligent to me, and certainly getting less so every year. Now, the event brings together heads of state and government, business CEOs, supposed civil society leaders, global media, youth leaders, although perhaps followers is a better word, from Asia, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, Latin, and North America. The aim is to work together to build trust and shape the principles, policies, and partnerships that are needed to meet the challenges of each year. Now, we've seen war in Ukraine and Gaza, hyperinflation and interest rates, complete lack of respect for law, order, civility. We're on the verge of a depression, and the world is more dangerous and divided now than ever before. So wouldn't it be nice if instead of worrying about themselves and the global union, those leaders tackled the real problems of man where they really do occur? I still remember when I was asked to participate and speak there around 10 or 11 years ago. And it's too bad my suggestions were not implemented. They focused on real solutions, not self-serving promises. I remember, friends, we're just under 2 weeks away from welcoming a new year, the year of the snake. Now, the snake falls midway in the 12-year cycle of the Chinese zodiac. We're used to the 12-month cycle. They have a 12-year cycle. And the snake, being the symbol of transformation and change, encourages us to think deeply and plan. Now, snakes represent wisdom and are extremely adaptable. Do not let your unfound fear push the power of the snake from you. Take advantage of it. And you can easily check how this year will impact your own Chinese zodiac sign on the internet. Now, we tend to know our Western signs of the zodiac. See, people have no problem saying what month they're in. But the year, well, that's another story. We don't think that way. I remember, friends, we're also only 10 days from Holocaust Remembrance Day, held on January 27th, because that's the day of the liberation of Auschwitz by the Red Army. Never again, never again. Oops, I forgot. It is again. It was October 7th, and there is no sign that it is going to change. Every year that we move further and further away, less is said and done to observe the darkest days of man. And we will talk a little more about it as we get closer. And while it is observed, it is not celebrated because celebrations and observations are not the same. We celebrate life. We celebrate joyous occasions. We celebrate our coming together as a like-minded group, a collective consciousness of seekers showing faith, any and all faith, love, any and all love, as we come together as a community, a chavura, fellowship, as we express our nature of kindness, compassion, thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, and wishes, because that's what unites us all in this community house of spirit, Beth Ruach, sharing and bringing light, keeping fear at bay. And even though we're together, we are always individual in our approach, each connecting in his or her or their own way. So once again, please do go ahead and invite everyone you know, physically, digitally, psychically, emotionally, spiritually, any way at all, to gather and share. From Psalm 133, the Hine Matov, come together. Hine Matov, Shemot Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Shemot Gam Yachad. How good and how pleasant it is for brothers and sisters together. Community. 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 Together. Because we are together and we support each other in this community. So let's all spread love, goodwill, and fellowship to the world. Remember, friends, this is you setting aside a little bit of sacred time in your own sacred space to honor and converse with whoever, whatever you happen to believe in, because we all believe in something. It's a part of your intention, your kavana, that you put out to the universe. It's your goodwill. Goodwill and intention are the roots of what you control, of what you can correct. Your intention sets in motion everything that occurs in your lives, my friends. And it is goodwill, energy, light that we send to help heal whoever you know that needs it. Healing and renewal is for everybody. It just floats through space, finding those in need. So send it out for those you know, for the souls and spirits of everybody you love. So think of whoever that needs healing and renewal and love, or just plain goodwill. Focus on them. Call their names. It's not just for people. It's for our pets. It's for the earth. It is the healing of the world, of the tikkun olam. It's part of our spiritual genetic makeup. And a part of the healing of the world is when we send thoughts and energy for health and renewal and goodwill for everyone. They don't have to be sick. It's for those in our hearts and our minds. Yes, it's usually said for the prayers for those who are sick, but it goes to everybody. Let's all send energy out for people in need everywhere. Special thoughts and prayers always for those in need of assistance, because many are in need of true assistance. We pray for those who need prayer, and we never have to know them, because we want health, recovery, good life for everybody around us. Let's continue to send healing energy for those hostages and hope for a speedy release. Let's send prayers for the people in California and for all those closer to us. For Rosanna and Alan, for Bill and Miriam, for California Callie, Carson, for Amin, for Gabby, AJ, Trevor, and Jess, for the builder and his wonderful mother Myra, for Snoopy and the elf, for Sabrina and Dave, for Paul and Maria, for Pam, for Richard, for Marlu, for Shelley and Lucy, for Gloria, for Winston and Inura, for Darling Alana, for Fern and Johnny and Kathleen, for Mina, Carly, for Charles and Maria and John, both not feeling well, for dear Doria, for Connie, for resilient Ronnie, for Tally, for Mayim, for Nina, Danny, for all those suffering and in need. And let's never forget to include all the familiars of our lives, all of our sacred animal friends everywhere, for everyone you know in need, and for the whole world, and for Devora. Friends, it is the kindness, the healing wishes, goodwill, and love we all send out. It just circles the world, finding those in need. So thank you, each of you, for all you do, for all you care, because the world is a world of spirit, and spirit, my friends, never dies. Me, Shemerach, Avotenu, Makor HaBracha, Limotenu. May the source of strength bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage. Make our lives a blessing. The renewal of body. The renewal of spirit. Let us say Amen. Mishmerach, let us all have our spirits renewed, because this is the great prayer for healing, which we call upon God to heal as He's healed before. Mishmerach, may He who blessed because all healing's a blessing. So let's all send and receive healing and renewal energy in our efforts to love, to share, to care, to grow. Now this week, we're going to begin the second book of the Bible, Shemot, names. Also, and perhaps better known as the book of Exodus. But friends, names are the real lesson of the book that we know as Exodus. The story of the escape from Egypt, the plagues, the commandments, the wilderness journey, is background to the greater message. And I'm sure many of you really don't know this book as the book of names. And the book of names you're going to see is actually a brilliant title. We're about to be directed, or perhaps misdirected, to something we take for granted. It's a name. So much is contained in names. But by referring to this book as Exodus, we're giving it a different name. And we are directed towards a theme. The leaving from Egypt, freedom over slavery. And in doing so, we put a smaller sense to the concept of names, their meaning, the key players. There's an interesting triangle of Moses, Pharaoh, God. And it's God who actually dominates this book in a greater way than anything seen in Genesis. But only one of these three provides a real name. How do we know people? We know them by their name. We're called by our names from the moment of birth, and sometimes from, like before the moment of birth. Like the pine trees lining the winding road, I got a name. I got a name. Like the singing bird and the croaking toad, I got a name. I got a name. And I carry it with me like my daddy did. But I'm living the dream he kept hid. We all have a name. Yet some of the most famous are those whose names we actually never know. Clint Eastwood became a superstar as the man with no name. But we all know who that is. What was the name of Frankenstein's monster? We don't know. But we call him Frankenstein. Sometimes we are known by our deeds, and our deeds become our name. Johnny Appleseed. This book opens telling us all the people that we knew are dead. But their death did not bring an end. Life encompasses us all and is an ongoing process. The Book of Names tells us the story of the birth of a nation, born in slavery, held in fear. And it ends with the nation's establishment of its own center, its own leaders, its own symbols and freedom. Genesis took us on a journey of narrowing our attention from the universe to the earth to humanity to a particular family. We followed that family through. Exodus begins to broaden the circumference of attention again as the family grows into a nation and comes into conflict with another nation. Exodus introduces nationhood, prophecy, law, but most important of all, it introduces the theme of God becoming known to the world, because he had previously only been known to a handful of select individuals. And all of this is done under the auspices of names. Hey, we all have them. They are so important in our lives. Like I say, sometimes it's given to us before birth. It's rarely self-chosen except when we change them. But our names can often define us. Just as the first reading in Genesis had so much to it, so does this first reading in Exodus. We're propelled to the future, where the Israelites are now oppressed. We witness the birth of Moses. We see him flee to Midian. We see his calling to the burning bush where he meets God, who tells him to return to Egypt because the time for Israel's deliverance is at hand. We're 400 years from where we were when we met last week. We are witnessing the unfolding of a great story. And like in every great story, there are common elements. There's a protagonist, an antagonist, a main character. And like in every classic Greek play, there's a deus ex machina, who controls everything and everyone. So who's the protagonist? Who's the antagonist? Who's the actual main character? It's not always the protagonist. Most of the time, the protagonist is good and the antagonist is evil, and therefore there is a conflict. And it's the conflict that strikes at us and engages us. That's not always the case, but it is how we are programmed to see things. So if you ask, most people are going to say the protagonist in Exodus is Moses and the antagonist is Pharaoh. We have incredible conflict right there. But does this make Moses the main character? Not necessarily. The interplay between these two makes them actually very equal in impact. This is a much more complex book than Genesis was. Genesis was about origins and Exodus is about resolution, the attempt to return to perfection. But it's not a complete story. It is a journey through a desert, through a wilderness. And in the wilderness, names are not that important. Survival is. And many that you know are still on the road to survival. Exodus 1:8, and a new king rose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. Now there's possibly 5 pharaohs mentioned in the Torah. And they're the Pharaoh who thought Sarah was Abraham's sister, the Pharaoh who knew Joseph, the Pharaoh who did not know Joseph, that we just met, the Pharaoh who sought to kill Moses, who may or may not be the same Pharaoh who did not know Joseph, and the Pharaoh of the Exodus, because we're then told, partway through you're going to see, that there's another new king. For all 5, none of them have their names given. Why? We would like to know who they are. It's a missing piece that doesn't quite place history. If we know the names, it makes something concrete. If we don't know these names, it makes their allegory that much more powerful, and the impact goes beyond mere history. Exodus 1:13. And Egypt made the children of Israel serve with harshness, and they made their lives bitter with hard work, with mortar, with bricks, with all the work in the field, all their work that they did for them with harshness. Now, the description of the treatment of the people is going to come up over and over again and be featured very strongly during the High Holy Days. Now, the Israelites are becoming a more numerous group. And so the decision is made to kill the babies. When you deliver the Hebrew women, you look at the 2 stones. If it's a boy, you kill him. If it's a girl, then she'll live. This is the setup for the birth and the hiding of Moses. It's his origin. And that was actually very much based on the Mesopotamian Sargon birth legend, with a few twists. The Sargon story has a priestess placing her infant son in a basket of rushes with pitch on its exterior. She casts him into the river, and a water drawer retrieves the baby and rears him as his son. This and the other literary parallels to the birth account of Moses suggest how perplexing this biblical story actually is. Freud observed that such stories generally involve 3 steps. A child is born of noble or royal lineage. The child comes to be brought up as a commoner, and the child grows up and eventually arrives back at his rightful place in a royal house. That is the tradition. This story is the opposite. And just like is in the tradition of the ancient Near East and elsewhere, the future hero is threatened with death by the evil king and is saved by being hidden and then rescued. So while the book is about the formation of a people, it's through the eyes of one man, Moses, a man who remains somewhat distant from us, that we never get the sense of intimate acquaintance with. We never see his inner life, his family, his relationships, his distinctive traits of personality that were so memorably offered in the stories of Jacob and of Joseph. The opening of this book buries the past and introduces us to a people who have fallen into a state of slavery with freedom. Just a memory. I was born here, and I'll die here. Against my will. I know it looks like I'm moving, but I'm standing still. Every nerve in my body is so vacant and numb. Can't even remember what it was I came here to get away from. Don't even hear the murmur of a prayer. It's not dark yet, but it's getting there. And of course, for those who have read it, and I emphasize it because I mention it over and over, it is a phenomenal book. The noble poet borrowed the first line from the Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the father, and boy did it get dark. Now we meet the hero of the story. A baby born and a mother desperate to save him from this execution. Exodus 2:3. She's not able to conceal him anymore. She took an ark, made a bulrushes for him, smeared it with bitumen, pitch, and put the boy in it and put it in the reeds by the bank of the Nile. Now, doesn't that sound like the story we just heard from Mesopotamia? The baby was hidden for a while before this adventure begins. So it's she had the baby, and then she reaches a point where she says, I can't hide the baby anymore. And we see that, when she puts the baby in this basket as we know it by, the same word as with Noah is used. Tabah, a box. It's not a boat. With Noah, we think it's a boat. With Moses, we know it's a basket. Tabah, same word. They're connected. It's a box. And it's not an ark. It's not the same kind of box or ark later used to house the holy articles. That's a different kind. This box is what the baby was put in, simply a smaller version of Noah's box. And maybe that'll help you look at Noah's a little differently. So Pharaoh's daughter finds him, and the baby's sister, who's watching from the side, offered to get someone to nurse the child. So she gets the baby's own mother, who would now be paid by Pharaoh's daughter to wean the child. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child, nurse him for me, and I'll give you your pay. And the woman took the boy and nursed him, Exodus 2:10. And the boy grew older, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him from the water. And so baby Moses, who's not a baby anymore, is returned to Pharaoh's daughter, who's going to take over from here. And the editor tries to justify his name being Moses. But that's not what Moses actually means. In fact, the name Moses is not Hebrew. It is an Egyptian word. And its meaning is born or true son. And the name Moses became actually a part of many Pharaoh names, emphasizing that this is the true son of whoever. True son of Ra, true son of Horus. How many Tutmoses, pharaohs, are there? It gave instant credibility. Move on. Nothing to see here. Don't question it. These are not the droids you're looking for. This is the true son. Now we know that for his entire weaning period, he lived with his real mother. Now the weaning period of a child, it's a minimum of 1 or 2 years, even 3 or 4. What is fascinating is, even learned people recall this story out of order, just like they do with the Abraham and sending his servant to find a bride for Isaac, because they imagine Pharaoh's daughter naming Moses as she draws the baby from the water. But she does not, in fact, name him until after he's grown and is given back, right, when his mother brings him back to her. What was he called until that time? What was his name? What did his mother call him while she hid him? Classical and recent commentators have not addressed this. It's a great opportunity for you to do your own midrash on it. How many years did he go with no name? Who goes without a name? Count how many times you call your child by his or her name in a day, or your pet. And you will know how many times those parents are reminded of their unique situation. So Moses grows up, a prince of Egypt, who supposedly kills an Egyptian beating a slave and flees to save himself. Myth tells us it's because he found out he was Hebrew and interceded in an unjust event. None of that takes place, of course, in the Bible. That is midrash feeding a narrative. Highly unlikely, but it's a great story. It creates the opportunity for a hero to arise. Now, another midrash about Moses is actually my favorite Moses story of all, and we're going to see that one shortly. He crosses the desert. He comes to Midian, where he now performs the betrothal ritual that we saw in Genesis. Not for one, but for 7 daughters of Jethro, who also has at least one other name. Exodus 2:16. And a priest of Midian had 7 daughters. And they came and drew water, filled the troughs to water their father's flock, and the shepherds came and drove them away. Moses got up and saved them, watered their flock. They came to Reuel, their father, and he said, "Why are you so quick to come today?" And they said, "An Egyptian man rescued us from the shepherd's hand, and he drew water for us and watered the flocks too." And he said to his daughters, "And where is he? Why is it that you've left the man? Call him. Let him eat bread." And Moses came, and Moses was content to live with the man, and he gave Zipporah, his daughter, to Moses. He finds a new life here. He is actually now starting over. Our life together is so precious. Together. We have grown. We have grown. And although our love is still special, let's take a chance and fly away somewhere alone. That's just like starting over. He gets married, and he's now settled in Midian. He's got a whole new family. What do we know? Well, actually not a lot. We do not know this man's real name. We don't know Pharaoh's name. The man we are told is named Jethro is called Reuel, so maybe we don't really know his name either. And yet, my friends, this is the book of names. And while we don't know a lot, we do know his wife and son's names. And we are told the king of Egypt died. And we never knew his name. Exodus 3:1. And Moses had been shepherding the flocks of Jethro, his father-in-law, priest of Midian. He drove the flock to the far side of the wilderness, and he came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. Now, Horeb and Sinai are understood to be 2 names of the same place. Exodus 3:3. And an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a fire's flame from inside a bush, and he looked, and here the bush was burning in the fire, but the bush was not consumed. And God called to him from inside the bush, and he said, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "I am here." Now, we learned about the double name calling. It marks defining moments. This is the defining moment of Moses' life. Exodus 3:7. And the Lord said, "I've seen the degradation of my people who are in Egypt, and I've heard their wail on account of their taskmasters, because I know their pains. And I've come down to rescue them from Egypt's hand and to bring them up from that land to a good and widespread land, to a land flowing with milk and honey." Remember God's promise to Jacob when he went down to Egypt that he, God, would bring the people back. This is now the beginning of that appointed time. So I suggest the real main character in this story is God. Of our 3 characters, only one is named. The only name given is God's name, and he provides it himself. Exodus 3:13. And Moses said to God, "Here, I'm coming to the children of Israel, and I'll say to them, your father's God sent me to you. Not my God, your father's God. And they'll say to me, what's his name? What shall I say to them?" And God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And he said, "You shall say this to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you." Now, this is a very liberal translation. The name of God is revealed, and it is a verb. So Moses actually changes it, because God introduces himself in the first person, I am, but Moses changes it to the third person, right? Like you would say, I am and he is, and that would be fine if the name was not a verb. In this case, it is. It's a singular verb. It's a masculine verb. Its root meaning is to be. So its really truest nearest translation would be, as Moses introduces him, he causes to be. But of course, when God says it would be, I cause to be. But we always refer to him as a third person. So we do refer to, God as he. causes to be. So Moses is given a new job, which was not what he was looking for. Moses doesn't really want the job. He's 80 years old. And he's arguing no one will listen. He's not a talker. And he's told he's going to have Aaron there to speak for him. There's a great reason for that. It's not the reason you think. And this is where that fantastic midrash written about Moses' need for Aaron on this mission comes. I love these explanatory midrashim that have been taken to be 100% true. You repeat something enough and boom, it's true. Now, one of the things we are taught is to seek words or phrases elsewhere in the Torah to find out what the meaning actually may be. Moses is described here as being heavy of tongue. And that's what the Midrashim story is about. How did he get heavy of tongue? Well, there's actually one other use of that phrase in the Bible. The same phrase refers to nations who speak foreign languages. So the suggestion is Moses the Egyptian did not speak the language of the people he was sent to lead. He didn't speak Hebrew, but Aaron did. But read the Midrash story for this. It's fantastic. It explains why he needed Aaron to speak for him. And then the main character, God, says something very interesting. Exodus 4:21. And the Lord said to Moses, when you're going to go back to Egypt, see all the wonders that I've set in your hand, and you shall do them in front of Pharaoh, and I'll strengthen his heart, and he won't let the people go. We're told, but it's ignored. It's not Pharaoh who's going to keep the people there. It's God. It's God who says he will not allow Pharaoh to let the people go. So we have three main characters all interacting. And while we know who they are, we don't really know the names of them. We don't know Moses' real name. We don't know Pharaoh's name at all. We were told God's name, but we're not allowed to use it. They used it then. We're not allowed to use it. Why are names so important? Names define history. And they often tell us when and where. They also tell us who. It was all I could do to keep from crying. Sometimes it seems so useless to remain. You're the one who always tried to change me. That is why I'll always stay the same. And I'll hang around as long as you will let me. 'Cause I never minded standing in the rain. You don't have to call me darling, but you never even call me by my name. Yes, my friends, the world is sacred, so is everything in it. Express your gratitude, light a candle, make a wish. Celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free, be free, honor your freedom, be well, be happy, be blessed. Share and honor the light, and all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everybody you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone, and end to terror and hatred. Remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together, we celebrate with each other, we love each other, we share this right together. Men and women equally. Let's all send out love, not fear. Send out peace, harmony, goodwill, and healing to all who need it. Examine your intentions. Use them to imprint your will on the universe. We set in motion all that happens in our lives. It's our intention, our kavanah, our cause, our effect. It's all linked. You have time to forgive and be forgiven. You have the knowledge of what's good and bad, so acknowledge what you have done wrong to yourself, to God, to any person you've wronged, and ask forgiveness. Do so with sincerity, accountability, vulnerability. Forgive those who have hurt you as you learn to be forgiving and compassionate, because the secret of forgiveness, compassion, and peace is in acceptance. Can you accept yourself, other people in the world just as they are? Can you accept life as it is without trying to control it? If you do, you can experience the peace that acceptance brings. So keep on dreaming, my friends. Keep on being, keep sharing, keep shining, keep teaching. Keep spreading joy and goodwill. Never follow fear. Follow love. It's always in front of you. Work to be present in the body. Expand your heart. Quiet your mind. Because the deepest source of real power lies in consciousness and your ability to be mindful, to be aware, to be present in all of life's circumstances. and love with the heart, because we're all part of a greater whole. Embrace love, not fear, forgiveness, not anger. And be there for someone, because someone will always be there for you. Continue to explore faith and belief and what they mean for you. Never accept shame as a natural state. Whatever you feel others have felt, whatever you've experienced others have too. We share together, we learn together. We help each other, because we're each of us simply trying to find love and acceptance and support. You're never alone on your journey, my friends. Listen to the voice of God as he, she, it, them, they talks to you. And remember, your connection to God and all he has created in body and soul, it's a part of you, it's a part of me, it's a part of everything around us forever. Listen to that voice. God is always talking to you. We have entered a new world, and we met a new individual through whose eyes this entire story is now going to take place. We will never know his name, but we have been introduced to God, whose name we learn and actually never use, but whose meaning is really quite amazing. You know my name. Better look up my number. You know my name. That's right, look up the number. You know my name. You know my name. You know my name. Look up my number. Now that's actually one of my favorite Beatles songs. And friends, even more so than Santa, God knows your name. Well, thank you for joining me. Have a great week. I'll see you all soon. Continue to celebrate the miracles of life. Give light to everyone you can. Shabbat shalom and blessings to you all. Take care.